Local 4 News starts now with a breaking news alert.
And that breaking news tonight coming from Oxford. Could the Oxford school shooting have been prevented? A new 500-plus page report comes to the conclusion that yes, had proper training and guidelines been in place. The report puts the blame at every level of the school, and it tops our news at 11. Good to have you with us. I'm Devin Skillian.
I'm Kimberly Gill. The report was supposed to be released late this afternoon. It didn't come out until 9 p.m., so just a couple of hours ago. Mara McDonald is live in Oxford. Mara, the delay made a community that's already been through so much just that much more anxious.
Kimberly, they've been sitting here since 3 o'clock this afternoon, pounding refresh on their computers, making sure they weren't missing any part of this report. It finally came out tonight, and I'll tell you the headline here, from what I have been able to get through so far, and no, I haven't been able to get through the whole thing yet, is that there was a systemic failure here from the top down, especially at the superintendents and cabinet level when it comes to dealing with threat assessment policies in this district, as well as suicide intervention. And if those policies, training, and all the rest of it had been in place, then perhaps we wouldn't be in the position we are with what happened here. There is a line in this report that really sums it up. In short, responsibility too often was denied and shifted elsewhere. Where to put the blame for what happened that terrible November day? First and foremost, squarely on the shooter. That said, here's how this report starts out. Quote, individuals at every level of the district, from the board to the superintendent and the OHS administration and staff, failed to provide a safe and secure environment. The report goes on to detail it's not a matter of not having policies in place. They were, but guidelines were not, which is why, quote, our independent investigation established that the shooter was not identified as a threat because individuals at Oxford High School failed to recognize on November 30th, 2021, that the shooter's conduct, statement, and drawing suggested that he might cause physical harm at school. It then goes on to say the school had enough information to know he was a threat and should have been removed, his parents forced to take him, even though they said they couldn't. For parents who fought to get a third-party report done, they needed to see this in black and white.
It means everything to us. Having the truth in the answers is everything. We want to know what happened, not just for our own stories and putting together what happened to our kids, but so we can fix the policies and the procedures and where the failures were so that it never happens again.
Back here live, the other thing that becomes clear when you go through this report is that a number of the people who were intimately involved that day in the decision to allow that shooter to stay in school are not cooperating and have not in any capacity. That includes the former dean of students as well as his counselor at the time. We're live in Oxford tonight. I'm Mara McDonald, Local 4.
Okay, Mara, thank you. Our other top story tonight is the weather, as it's shaping up to be a cold Halloween for trick-or-treaters.
Let's get right over to forewarned weather meteorologist Kim Adams for a look at what we expect tomorrow. Kim.
Well, we expect another very chilly day, and in fact, we'll get a couple more snow flurries. We did have a few today in Rochester and also in, we have our friends here dancing for us. Is that awesome? If they could just move out of the way. Thank you. There you go. 38 degrees with a little light rain snow mix. Temperatures tomorrow night are going to feel more like it's in the low 30s with a little light rain and perhaps a couple wet snowflakes. And here's some scary statistics. 8 out of the last 10 years, we have had at least some form of precip, whether it be snow, rain, or a combination of both. And you might remember last year it started to pour down rain, but at the end of trick-or-treating. I'm not sure we're going to have that same luck tomorrow, but it's not going to pour down rain, but we'll probably see a few wet snowflakes, certainly from time to time. Hey, it's snowing up north pretty well. Anywhere from Traverse City down to Grayling, they have a winter weather advisory, first one of the season. And right now we're dry here in Metro Detroit as we take a little bit of a closer look. Temperatures are in the low 30s at Metro Airport. It's only 31 in Pontiac. You're going to wake up tomorrow morning to temperatures in the 20s and we'll top out at 40 degrees. But we do warm up, if you can call that a warm up, to the 50s by the weekend. I'll have all of the awful details on the forecast of the next 7 days. We'll try to find a bright spot coming up.
We were relentless in our fight to win a record contract, and that is exactly what we accomplished.
46 days after the United Auto Workers' historic strike began, the union and all of the big three are finally near the finish line. The last of the big three U.S. automakers, General Motors, reached a tentative deal today with the union to end their strike. The agreement comes after deals with Ford and Stellantis, of course, that have all happened within the last week. Pamela Osborne live now to discuss what else is in the agreement. GM agreeing to a 25% wage increase, Pamela.
Yeah, Devin, and the way all of this works out, that cost of living adjustment is back, which means that workers' starting pay, I should say, goes up about 70%. Salaried employees, they are also going to see a bump up, and the UAW says it is all because of those stand-up strikes.
Now that we have a groundbreaking tentative agreement at GM, we're officially suspending our stand-up strike against each of the big three.
The picket lines are empty now after the UAW secured pay raises, restored cost of living adjustments, and eliminated tiers for big three auto workers.
And we have slammed the door on having a permanent underclass of temporary workers at General Motors.
UAW President Shawn Fain says the agreement was reached early Monday morning, 2 days after the UAW expanded its strike to include the Spring Hill Assembly Plant in Tennessee.
For the past several weeks, analysts and pundits were crying that our union was going too far, that we were demanding too much. We didn't listen to them, and we never let up. The result is one of the most stunning contract victories since the sit-down strikes in the 1930s.
Even salaried workers at GM will see wage increases.
They will receive wage increases of 25% and cost of living allowance, matching what we have won for our hourly workers. Some lower-tiered workers at GMCH will see their paychecks increase by as much as 89% at ratification.
Current GM temp workers with 90 days on the job will be converted to full-time employees with seniority.
And so the next big day in all of this is this Friday. That is when UAW leadership is going to be looking at that agreement and voting on whether or not to pass it down to its union members. From there, it would be up for a ratification vote. For now, reporting live downtown Detroit, I'm Pamela Osborne, Local 4.
And that's why we say tentative agreements, not over yet. All right, Pamela. Well, tonight, the United Nations pleading with Israel to open a main border crossing with Gaza to allow humanitarian deliveries to get into the war-torn region.
Right now, aid trucks and supplies are trickling into Gaza from Egypt, but it's simply not enough. So the U.S. is leading negotiations with Israel, Egypt, and the UN to try to create a sustained delivery plan and path for aid to Gaza. Meanwhile, Israeli ground forces are advancing tanks and other armored vehicles into Gaza's main city and working to free hostages held by Hamas.
A Michigan judge trying to figure out why two men convicted in connection with the kidnapping plot involving Governor Whitmer are no longer in the state. Paul Bellar and Joel Morrison are now finishing out their sentences in federal prisons outside Michigan, but the reason for their transfers is unclear. And now their attorneys are fighting to get the men returned, saying that distance makes it very hard to work on their appeals. Bellar and Morrison are guilty of providing material support for a terrorist act, along with other charges. We await word on whether the possibility is they'll be coming back.
President Biden issues an executive order imposing national rules on the fast-growing artificial intelligence sector. The president is seeking to use federal agencies to monitor the risks of AI and develop new uses for the technology while protecting workers. The order would streamline high-skilled immigration, create new government offices and task forces, and open the door for the use of more AI in government. 19 small businesses are getting a big boost from the city of Detroit.
Each receiving a $1 million grant thanks to the Motor City Match program. Mayor Duggan and other city officials announced the new winners today. Some of the businesses impacted included Performing Arts Center, child care facilities, a cosmetology school. The past year, the Motor City Match has doled out $6.5 million to help new businesses get off the ground.